do, but we're going to wait on installing this baby until our full height backsplashes are all installed. Those were all cut and polished at the same place that we saw the countertops being fabricated last time, with some very precise computerized tools.
We have a Park Fusion saw water jet combination. What we're able to do is set that up on the machine and do all the straight cutting with the saw portion, and then do some intricate cutting with the water jet. So we've taken two machines, put it in together as one. You can use a high yield and nesting to get a good yield for your material.
So now that all your cuts are done, what's next?
So right now we've actually introduced those parts that we just cut onto our CNC machine, and what it's going to do is actually going to put the edge profile on it, do some final touch up at where there might be some seams, do sink cutouts that may not be in there and clean up those sink cutouts for undermount sinks.
Okay.
All the profiling is basically put on the CNC machine. In the past, when you did it by hand, you're basically just doing it all, but you couldn't take those digital images that we took at measure, that Mark put together. All those digital images are going here to get our actual final size put together for a perfect fit.
Right. It'll be the same guys, Mitch and Craig, who put in all the tops. Pieces have been set aside for the backsplashes as well, but they like to get the tops in first before doing the final measuring for those. So Corey came back with the tops in place to get the exact dimensions between the new granite and the cabinets above. And that's how they get a very snug fit.
I don't use a laser on this. It is possible to use a laser measuring device. However, it is a bit cumbersome. And sometimes there's no substitute for a pencil, a ruler, and a level. I am going to draw it all out on my CAD program on my laptop computer. There are a number of cutouts in the backsplash we need to make for the switches and the outlets. And although we cut all the stone out on our CNC machine in our shop, the tooling is bigger than the size of the cutout we need. So we're going to cut all of these cutouts on site by hand.
The granite we're going with is a fairly animated stone called Crema Bordeaux, and we worked with Mark to come up with a layout that would reflect the movement that's going on in the backsplashes along with what's happening in the countertops. So keep an eye out for that as the guys install our pieces.
We have the countertop fabricators back, or as they like to be known as the above average stone fabricators. So the biggest challenge for these guys are the measuring for these outlets.
Usually I like to start with the piece that has the most notches in it, and usually they're cut to size. That one is, once we get on site, so we can just kind of set it in and then go from there.
These slabs show up, but there's no holes in them, so they have to carefully measure their outlets, height, width, double check the pieces to make sure they transfer the holes to their pieces before they put them in.
Marking the outlets, we generally take measurements and then go outside and mark the piece, both on the front side and the back side, because we'll have to cut it from the back side to finish the cut. To cut all the outlets out, we use a 4-inch diamond wheel grinder. Just seems to be the easiest to get in and make those little cuts. When we're cutting the outlets, we like to do the sides and the top and bottom, and then also do a diagonal cut. Just helps make it easier when we flip it over to do the final cutout. Helps us connect the four corners and finish the cut. Once we finish cutting the outlets out, we carry the piece in, try to dry fit it before we glue it to see if there's any fine tuning that we need to do with the height or the length, and if there isn't, we'll glue it and set it in place.
Here's one of the effects that I was talking about. You can see how the movement here on the backsplash mirrors what's happening here on the countertop. Now this stone is from Brazil, and with all the veining and motion in here, each piece really is one of a kind. But with some careful planning and layout, you can get two separate pieces that really work well together.
Usually we'll have to do a little bit of tweaking on the pieces to get them to fit just right. A lot of times it's hard to get an accurate measurement on a big piece. You see granites with a lot of flow, a lot of movement in it, you have to be extra careful with. They're usually a little more fragile. You don't want to push too hard. it will crack if you have a big bow in the wall and you try to push it back flat.
Now, one thing to remember, your backsplash is actually 3/4 of an inch thick, so standard screws in your outlets and switches won't work. So what you got to do is get longer screws, screw everything in. What's nice about stone is that it's non-combustible, so you don't need any extender boxes to make everything.
We had to finish up, we had to drill a hole for the reverse osmosis drinking water. And we also had to finish up with a little bit of siliconing and some paintable DAP that we use along the wall where there's a painted surface.
The backsplashes are all done now, and the guys once again did a great job fitting those in between the countertops and the cabinets, leaving a couple of picture-perfect granite installations. So we want to thank everyone involved with those.
It all went pretty smoothly. Not too many problems, measured very well. There was a little bit of a bow in the wall that we had to do some extra shimming. But other than that, it went very well.